The world will not reward the man who refuses to rule himself. That is the first principle of power and the last commandment of wealth. If you are broke, not merely in bank account, but in courage, in clarity, in command of your own faculties, it is not because the world has withheld its riches, but because you have not yet claimed the right to govern your own mind. There is no poverty more insidious than the poverty of discipline, and there is no inheritance more majestic than the kingdom of inner control. The man who rises is not the man who pleads. He is not the man who waits for inspiration. He is not the man who asks permission to think for himself. He is the man who decides. And every fortune, whether carved in gold or chiseled into legacy, begins with a single iron decision. I shall not be ruled by emotion. I shall not be enslaved by reaction. I shall become the master of my mind. If you are ready to stand before the mirror and confront the real enemy, not your boss, not your upbringing, not your lack of connections, but you, then you are ready to hear what must be spoken next. For what you are about to receive is not comfort. It is fire. It is the blade that divides truth from excuse. It is the architect's code for constructing a new mind, the mind of one who builds wealth not merely in material, but in command, clarity, and character. There are 10 habits that keep you broke, 10 silent saboteurs that infiltrate your thoughts, shape your decisions, and rob you of destiny. They wear familiar faces, they masquerade as normal behavior, but make no mistake, they are the thieves of greatness. You will name them, you will face them, and you will cast them out. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Today. Habit 1, emotional reactivity, the poverty of the untrained mind. If you allow emotions to govern your actions, you forfeit your power. But if you command your thoughts, you command your future. The first habit that keeps men broke is the belief that their feelings are facts. That because they feel tired, they are entitled to rest. That because they feel anxious, they are excused from boldness. That because they feel afraid, they are justified in retreat. Let me speak to your soul. Emotion is not your compass. It is your test. Every man must rise to the point where he can feel fear and still walk forward, where he can feel anger and still speak with grace, where he can feel frustration and still move with precision. Until you can detach your actions from your emotional storms, you will remain at the mercy of the winds, and the man who drifts cannot direct. Build in yourself what I call the law of mental neutrality. This law states, you are not your mood, you are your response to it. The rich man acts from principle. The broke man reacts from impulse. And until you discipline your inner world, until you learn to observe without absorbing, to feel without following, to reflect before responding, you will remain enslaved by the emotional whims of a child, even if you walk in the body of a grown man. Habit 2, the need for approval, the bankruptcy of self, worth. You will never be wealthy if you are begging the world for applause, because the crowd does not reward those who seek truth, it rewards those who entertain. And if your compass is applause, you will betray your genius just to remain acceptable. The man who desires approval more than alignment with his own purpose is already broke. He just hasn't checked his spiritual bank account. When you pursue wealth with clarity, you must often walk alone. You must offend the mediocre. You must disappoint the comfortable. You must violate the expectations of those who have never built anything but opinion. And when you do, they will call you arrogant. Let them, for the man who fears being misunderstood will never be truly great. Detach from the addiction to validation. Replace the hunger for praise with the hunger for principle. Practice what I call autonomous purpose, the ability to act in alignment with your values even when the world stares in silence. Remember this, approval is rented, but purpose is owned. Habit 3, inconsistency, the daily suicide of potential. The universe does not pay out on potential, it pays out on persistence. You may be brilliant, you may be insightful, you may even be capable of changing the world. But if your mind cannot repeat powerful behavior day after day after day, then your genius will rot in the graveyard of what could have been. Inconsistency is the habit of broke men because it is the language of the undisciplined. They start a project and abandon it. They get inspired and then disappear. They plan but do not persist. They burn bright and then flicker out. Listen closely. Discipline is not intensity, it is identity. It is who you decide to become even when no one is watching. It is brushing your mind clean each morning with purpose. It is becoming so consistent that the world begins to depend on your excellence. Wealth, real wealth, flows to the reliable, because the world gives its treasures to the trustworthy. Habit 4. Distraction, the poverty of scattered attention. The broke man confuses motion with progress. He scrolls, he clicks, he reacts. He lives in a state of digital intoxication, stimulated but unfocused, busy but bankrupt of direction. His energy is diluted across 100 meaningless tasks, and then he wonders why his vision never materializes. Concentration is currency, and if you spend your attention on trivia, you will never afford transformation. You must become ruthless with your focus. You must eliminate that which does not move the needle. You must kill the addiction to noise. What I call mental minimalism must become your code. Your energy is not infinite. You must choose where it goes. And you must defend that choice like your destiny depends on it, because it does. Habit 5. Blame, the crutch of the powerless. Nothing keeps a man broke longer than the refusal to accept responsibility for where he stands. The poor man blames the economy, he blames the government, he blames his past, he blames his boss. He blames his father. He blames everything except his own inaction, indecision, and indulgence. Blame is the language of slaves, and you are not born to be a slave. You are born to be a sovereign, but only if you claim that crown with full ownership. You must develop what I call radical responsibility. That means you assume command over your reactions, your results, and even your setbacks. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start declaring, "What must I become to rise above this?" There is no liberation without ownership. You cannot escape what you keep excusing, and until you stop blaming, you cannot begin building. Habit 6. Comfort seeking, the hidden addiction that sabotages greatness. Comfort is the silent killer of destiny. It whispers to you that you've done enough when you've barely begun. It seduces you into idleness by rewarding you with momentary relief, but charges you with long-term regret. The man who lives for comfort will always sell his future for the price of the present, and that trade, though tempting, is always a loss. The broke man seeks to feel better. The wealthy man seeks to be better. There is a difference. One chases ease, the other chases evolution. And make no mistake, evolution demands that you suffer voluntarily, that you lean into the resistance, that you train your nervous system to feel discomfort without flinching, because it is only through disciplined discomfort that strength is born. Every time you choose the hard thing, the early rise, the disciplined routine, the difficult conversation, the lonely hours of mastery, you sculpt within yourself a mind that can endure the weight of greatness. Greatness is heavy, comfort is light. You cannot carry both. Train yourself to pursue difficulty. Make it a habit to conquer what others avoid. Take cold showers. Rise before the sun. Practice mental fasting. Go hours in silence, without stimulation. Refuse the easy path and claim the narrow road, the one few walk, because the treasures there are reserved for the rare. Habit 7. Passive learning, the illusion of growth. There is a peculiar sickness among those who claim to pursue success, the sickness of intellectual consumption without execution. They read book after book. They attend seminar after seminar. They watch hours of motivational content, and yet they remain broke, not because they lack knowledge, but because they never apply it. The broke man confuses the glow of inspiration for the fire of action. He feels good after learning, so he assumes he is progressing, but he is not. He is entertaining himself with the idea of transformation, not engaging in the labor of it. Passive learning is the religion of the unproductive. It is the high of the thinker who fears the sweat of the doer. And unless you break that pattern, unless you take what you learn and install it into your daily rituals, then all your knowledge is vanity. I call this principle application over absorption. You don't need another book. You need to execute the last 10 pages you read. You don't need another mentor. You need to implement what the last one taught you. You don't need more knowledge. You need more courage to act on what you already know. Every day ask yourself, what truth have I implemented today? What habit have I built? What behavior have I corrected? If you cannot answer, you are not growing. You are pretending. Habit 8. Poor language, the vocabulary of failure. Listen closely, for this may be the most subtle of all traps. The language you use is not just communication, it is creation. Every word you speak is a vote for your future. And the broke man is enslaved by the weak vocabulary of defeat. He says, I can't. He says, it's hard. He says, I'm not ready. He says, maybe one day. These words are spells, and each one casts a fog over his inner world until he can no longer see his own power. The successful man guards his language with the same vigilance that a king guards the gates of his fortress. He does not wish, he declares. He does not say, I'll try. He says, I will. He does not ask for ease. He commands results. You must develop what I call verbal mastery. Speak with precision. Speak with power. Speak only what aligns with your intention. Remove the language of limitation from your mouth, and you will begin to remove the limitations from your mind. Habit 9. Indecision, the death of momentum. To hesitate is to die, not in the flesh perhaps, but in spirit, in movement, in momentum, and success is the child of momentum. Without it, every opportunity rots in its cradle. The broke man waits. He thinks. He ponders. He researches. He analyzes. He consults. He delays. He convinces himself that now is not the time, that more clarity is needed, that someday will be better. But someday is the devil's date. It never arrives. And so he stays where he is wishing, hoping, rotting in potential. Decision is the lightning of the soul. When it strikes, it ignites the path forward. You must decide faster than your fear. You must move before you are ready. You must build the plane while flying because the mind learns by doing, not by debating. The habit of decisive action must become your nature, not rashness, but clarity in motion. Train your mind to trust itself. Every time you delay a decision, you teach your subconscious that you are weak. But every time you choose boldly, you strengthen your identity as a leader. Burn this into your mind. Indecision is the enemy of fortune, but the man of swift, accurate thinking becomes a magnet for wealth. Habit 10. Emotional attachment to the past, the anchor of the unfree. Nothing keeps a man broke more than being emotionally anchored to what was. He clings to old failures. He clings to past relationships. He clings to betrayals, regrets, and identities that no longer serve his becoming. And in doing so, he binds himself to a version of himself that cannot grow. The mind, when attached to the past, cannot access the future. You must detach. Not from wisdom, but from the emotion that imprisons you in yesterday. The lesson is useful. The wound is not. Let go of the story. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the idea that you are defined by what happened to you. You are not your memory. You are your intention. And the man who cannot release the past will always sabotage the present and therefore forfeit the future. You must practice what I call the principle of clean slate thinking. Each day is a blank canvas. Each moment is an invitation to realign. You are not a prisoner of your history. You are the author of your next page, but only if you drop the pen of regret and pick up the pen of intention. Now, listen to me closely. These habits are not broken by inspiration alone. They are broken by ritual, by action, by the daily crucifixion of excuse, and the daily resurrection of will. You must rebuild yourself like a craftsman, thought by thought, word by word, act by act, until the man you used to be is unrecognizable and the man you are becoming is unstoppable. This is not merely a motivational speech. It is a manual for transformation. And if you take it seriously, if you sit with these words like sacred scripture, if you read them each morning like an oath, if you confront yourself with ruthless honesty and refuse to tolerate these habits another day, then you will rise, not just in bank account, not just in status, but in sovereignty, in power, in peace, in purpose. You will no longer beg the world for scraps of security. You will command wealth. You will attract opportunity. You will move with the calm force of a man who knows who he is, who governs his mind, and who has broken the chains that once kept him broke. If you are ready, then rise. Stand before the mirror and say, "Today I break the habits that kept me broke. Today I claim command of my inner world. Today I become the architect of my destiny. And then act. Now that we have named the 10 silent saboteurs that keep a man broke, it is time to descend deeper, to chisel into the granite of these ideas with greater force, to awaken not just the conscious intellect, but the sleeping spirit behind it. Because the transformation of a man does not happen at the surface. It happens when his very identity is challenged, reformed, and reborn. You cannot simply know these habits. You must confront them in combat. You must beat them on the battlefield of thought and then in the trenches of daily behavior. Let us begin again this time, not just with principle, but with vision. Habit 1 revisited. Emotional reactivity. How the undisciplined mind sells its throne. Imagine a man in a chariot, pulled by wild horses. If he does not train the horses, if he does not hold the reins with strength and stillness, they will drag him into chaos, cliffs, rivers, thorns. That chariot is your life. The horses are your emotions, and the reins, they are your thoughts. The broke man lets the horses pull him wherever they please. He wakes up and says, "I feel tired, therefore I won't rise early." His business fails, and he says, "I feel embarrassed, therefore I'll quit." A friend offends him, and he says, "I feel angry, therefore I must retaliate." But the rich man, the master of his soul, does not consult emotion before he acts. He consults principle. He drives his chariot toward his goal, regardless of the storm within. He observes emotion as data, not destiny. He uses the winds of anger to forge discipline. He uses fear as fuel for preparation. He sees sadness not as defeat, but as a signal to grow deeper roots. Emotional detachment is not emotional absence. It is emotional sovereignty. It is the trained power to respond instead of react, to choose action, not based on feelings, but on purpose. If you can pause for 3 seconds between stimulus and reaction, if you can breathe, analyze, decide, you have already risen above 90% of humanity. You are no longer a puppet. You are now a commander. Say this to yourself each morning: I am not my emotions. I am the master of my decisions. Habit 2 revisited. The need for approval. How external validation destroys internal wealth. A tree does not seek applause for growing toward the sun. It simply grows. The oak does not care whether the birds approve of its bark. It anchors itself in the earth, reaches into the sky, and fulfills its design. But man weak, scattered, untrained man, he often grows not in the direction of truth, but in the direction of applause. He posts to impress. He speaks to fit in. He works not from soul, but from performance. And in doing so, he becomes a slave owned by the crowd. Let me give you a warning. The masses are not wise. They are not sovereign. They are not guided by principle. The masses are often ruled by fashion, fear, envy, and illusion. If you build your identity on their praise, you are building a palace on sand. When the tides shift, and they will, your kingdom will fall. Detachment from approval is not arrogance. It is inner alignment. It is the courage to be misunderstood for a season in order to be respected for a lifetime. True wealth requires solitude of thought, and solitude of thought requires the bravery to stand alone. Say to yourself, I do not seek applause, I seek alignment. The man who walks with purpose will offend many, but he will awaken himself. Habit 3 revisited. Inconsistency. How the untrained mind sabotages its own progress. A river cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence. The sun rises every day, not in brilliance alone, but in consistency. And yet the broke man treats greatness as a mood. He does what is needed only when he feels like it. He is the man who builds the foundation of a house, then leaves. He paints the canvas halfway, then abandons it. He starts the business, but cannot endure the valley between inspiration and reward. Let me give you the law. Excellence belongs to the man who can repeat power even when no one is watching. That means waking up early even when no one checks. That means sending the email, recording the video, making the call, writing the chapter, even when motivation is absent. Consistency is not about perfection. It is about identity. You must become the type of person who finishes what he starts, not once, not when inspired, but every single time. Write this on your wall. What I do daily is who I become permanently. Habit 4 revisited. Distraction, the new poverty. The modern world is engineered to rob you of your attention. Your phone, your notifications, your endless scrolling, these are not merely entertainments, they are enemies of clarity. Each moment you allow yourself to be pulled into trivia, you are losing gold from your mental treasury. Distraction makes your mind fractured, and a fractured mind cannot build wealth. It cannot produce clarity. It cannot solve difficult problems. The distracted man is the dull blade he cannot cut through the fog of life. If you want to rise, you must practice monk-level focus. That means you put the phone in the other room. That means you block your time like a warrior protects his kingdom. That means you become inaccessible to chaos because your purpose is too valuable to be diluted. Say this: I protect my focus because my destiny depends on it. 1 hour of deep, undistracted work is worth more than 10 hours of divided attention. Focus is the new elite currency. Habit 5 revisited. Blame, the mental disease of the powerless. Blame is the invisible prison that men build with their own hands. Every time you say, "They did this to me," you are giving them the keys to your fate. And the man who blames never builds. He only deflects. The truth is simple. Everything in your life is either what you created or what you tolerated. That may sting, that may offend, but it is the only statement that will set you free. Blame is the mind's way of avoiding the pain of growth. But if you are to become wealthy, not just in money, but in command, you must burn every excuse. Replace "they did this" with "I allowed this." Replace "why me" with "what must I become to rise." Say this to yourself: I am responsible. Even if it's not my fault, it's my opportunity. The moment you assume radical responsibility is the moment you become dangerous, because now nothing can stop you except your own will. Habit 6 revisited. Comfort, seeking, the sweet poison of mediocrity. Picture 2 lions. One is lean, scarred, and walks with a slow-burning fire behind its eyes. The other is fed daily in a cage, pampered and safe. Which one do you think the jungle respects? Which one do you think remembers what it means to hunt, to rule, to earn survival through sheer will? The lion of the wild is not comfortable, but it is alive. The caged lion is comfortable, but it is dying inside. Now look at your life and be honest. Are you living wild in purpose, or are you sitting in a golden cage of soft habits, digital sedation, and justifications for staying small? Comfort, my friend, is not a reward. It is a trap. It trains you to accept less than your potential. It lulls your ambition to sleep. It whispers, "You're doing fine," when in fact, you are decaying slowly. Do not build a life around what feels good. Build a life around what builds you. Learn to crave the burn of challenge the way a warrior craves the battlefield. The gym should feel like sacred ground. Early mornings should feel like initiation. Pain should feel like purification. If your life is too easy, your character is too weak. Say it aloud: I refuse to rot in comfort. I will grow through challenge. Every time you step into pain voluntarily, not recklessly, but with purpose, you separate yourself from the weak. And that separation, that's the space where wealth, power, and peace begin. Habit 7 revisited. Passive learning, the opium of the enlightened ego. Some of the most broke people in the world are not the uneducated, but the overeducated and under-executed. They have read 100 books, but written 0 plans. They have attended 12 seminars, but taken 0 consistent actions. They are walking libraries with empty bank accounts and chaotic lives. Why? Because they confuse inspiration with transformation. They confuse knowing with becoming. You don't grow by reading about discipline. You grow by getting up when it hurts. You don't master finances by learning every wealth principle in theory. You master it by tracking every dollar, investing wisely, delaying gratification, and doing that every day. Passive learning feels good. It creates the illusion of progress. It sedates your guilt. But unless you extract one idea, write it down, translate it into one habit, and embed that habit into your daily rhythm, you are just decorating your mind while your life remains broken. Implement or perish. Use this rule. For every hour I learn, I must take 2 hours to apply. That is the formula that builds empires, not just intellect. Write it on your wall. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is. Habit 8 revisited. poor language, the sound of self-sabotage. Words are not merely descriptions, they are spells, and every word you repeat programs your subconscious mind like lines of code to build the world you live in. So if you say, I can't afford it, you teach your brain to filter out all solutions. If you say, it's hard, you train your body to fatigue. If you say, I'm not that kind of person, you lock your identity into a coffin. But when you speak with precision and power, the world begins to bend. You say, this is difficult, but I will learn. You say, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting stronger. You say, I am becoming a man of discipline and wealth. And your mind, like the loyal servant it is, begins to believe you. And when it believes, it aligns. And when it aligns, your life transforms. No more vague speech. No more self-deprecating jokes. No more flippant sarcasm about your goals. Speak only what strengthens the throne of your own mind. Say it, I speak only what aligns with my becoming. Words build worlds. Yours are building something right now. Make sure it's not a prison. Habit 9 revisited. Indecision, the slow bleed of all potential. You cannot steer a parked car. You cannot harvest a seed you didn't plant. You cannot win a race you never entered. And yet millions of men stay broke because they hesitate at every crossroad. Why? Because decision is responsibility, and responsibility is heavy. So they avoid it. They pass the decision to the spouse, the system, the signs, the season, the universe, anything but themselves. But the truth is simple. Indecision is an insult to your own intelligence. If you do not trust yourself to choose, you will be ruled by those who do, and you will become a tool in their vision, not the master of your own. Develop what I call the 1-minute rule of power. If a decision does not require deep technical expertise, make it in 1 minute or less. Trust your values, trust your preparation, act fast. Refine as you go. The longer you wait, the weaker you become. The stronger you decide, the more momentum you gain. Say it every morning. I trust myself to decide. I choose quickly and move with power. Every empire was built brick by brick, but each brick was laid by decision, not delay. Habit 10 revisited. Emotional attachment to the past. The anchor you must cut loose. Imagine a man trying to row forward while dragging a massive anchor of regret behind him. He rows harder and harder, but he barely moves. The anchor is not visible to the world, but it's real, it's heavy, and it is self-inflicted. That anchor is your unresolved past, the betrayal you keep replaying, the failure you never forgave yourself for, the identity you clung to when you were broke, lost, ashamed. And every day you let that emotional debris stay in your mind, it corrupts your power. You must detach from who you used to be emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. You are not that version anymore. You are not your mistake. You are not your failure. You are not your wound. You are what you choose to become today. You must grieve it if needed, then burn it. There is no resurrection without crucifixion. Kill the old you. Kill the victim. Kill the excuse maker. Kill the weak, timid, approval-hungry, self-sabotaging shell. Then rise. Say it aloud. I release the past. I choose my becoming. I am not who I was. I am who I decide to be today. You do not owe loyalty to your old self. You owe rebirth to your highest self. The final ascent. A manifesto of power, peace, and purpose. You are standing now at a sacred crossroads. One path leads to repetition to the same patterns, the same excuses, the same broken promises you've made to yourself and failed to keep. The other leads to command. Command of your thoughts, command of your days, command of your energy, your emotions, your destiny, not because fate handed it to you, but because you earned it, by disciplining the undisciplined, by confronting the weak, by choosing truth when it was hard and silence when it was easy to scream. This world does not belong to the smartest. It belongs to the most mentally disciplined. This world does not crown the lucky. It crowns the intentional. And so now I speak directly to the man you must become. I do not speak to the child who complains. I do not speak to the voice in your head that says, maybe later. I do not speak to your fears or your doubts or your limitations. I speak to the king within you, the one buried beneath the habits, the one born for power, for clarity, for legacy. And I say this, Today, you break the cycle. Today, you stop reacting and you begin responding. Today, you stop blaming and you begin building. Today, you stop seeking comfort and you begin seeking capacity. Today, you stop pretending to learn and you begin executing like your life depends on it. Because it does. You will never be broke again. Because from this moment forward, your mind is no longer for sale. Your energy is no longer on loan. Your emotions no longer drive your vehicle. You do. This is your oath. This is your code. This is your call to rise. So get up, stand tall, declare this truth until it rewires your soul. I command my mind. I master my emotions. I execute with clarity. I rise with discipline. I live with intention. I build wealth in every form. I do not break. I do not beg. I do not bow. I become. And now go make the world feel your presence. And now, having named the poison and prescribed the antidote, let us forge the new man in the fire of daily mastery, for insight without practice is impotent. Discipline, you must understand, is not a feeling. It is a system. A man becomes powerful not by waiting for motivation, but by engineering conditions that make power inevitable. We must now walk into the temple of your inner rituals. You must construct what I call the mental order of operations, a daily blueprint that removes choice from discipline and installs success as a natural consequence. Because the man who wakes up and asks, "What do I feel like doing today?" is already defeated. But the man who wakes up and says, "I know exactly what to do and I do it without compromise," that man is unshakable. Begin with the first hour, the sovereign's hour. No emperor begins his day in chaos. No general rises into battle with a cluttered mind, and neither should you. The first hour of your day is not a casual space. It is the most sacred battlefield in your kingdom. If you allow your phone to dictate your focus, the world will own you before your feet touch the floor. But if you seize that hour, if you fill it with clarity, control, silence, and structure, you will dominate the next 23. Here is what must occur in that first hour. Silence before stimuli. No messages, no news, no opinions, just you and the silence of thought. Mental inventory. Ask, what am I committed to becoming today? Not what you want, what you command. Written clarity. Write your intentions. Clarity crystallized becomes power operationalized. Physical ignition. Move the body, for if the blood is stagnant, so is the mind. Spoken affirmations. Say aloud what you are becoming, not soft hopes, hard declarations. Say it like a sovereign. I am focused. I am disciplined. I execute with ruthless consistency. I build wealth because I master my thoughts. I am not moved by emotion. I move the world by will. Repeat, daily, with conviction, until the voice of weakness cannot speak louder than the sound of your command. Install the law of pre-commitment. Most people fail because they negotiate with themselves. They see how they feel later. But a man of vision does not debate with his lower self. He pre-commits to his future self and then obeys. The night before every day must contain the contracts of the next morning. What time you wake, what you eat, what work you will execute, what noise you will eliminate. You do not let the child inside you make decisions when the man already set the plan. You must live by principle, not preference. Structure, not stimulation. You must learn to obey the orders you gave yourself yesterday, or you will remain a slave to your moods. Detach from outcome, attached to execution. Here lies the secret that destroys perfectionism, procrastination, and fear in one strike. You do not control the outcome, you control the process. The broke man obsesses over results and panics when progress is slow. The rich man obsesses over precision of effort. He is a craftsman, not a gambler. When you shift your identity to that of the executor, when you fall in love with showing up, refining, completing, polishing, adjusting, then success becomes inevitable. Because every repetition plants a seed, and the harvest always arrives to those who sow without anxiety. Say this, my focus is on the rhythm of right action. My results are just the echoes. This mindset makes you dangerous because it renders failure irrelevant. It trains you to act regardless of feeling, and that is where the elite are born. Train the muscle of thought selection. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who selects which thoughts to energize. Most people allow any thought to sit in the throne of their mind. Doubt, fear, jealousy, bitterness, regret. These are uninvited guests. And like all guests, they overstay their welcome unless you escort them out. Every time a weak thought arrives, I can't do this. It's too late. I'm not good enough. You must confront it, not coddle it. Interrogate it like a liar. Ask, is this thought aligned with my purpose? If not, kill it. Replace it. Do not merely try to be positive. Install replacement thoughts. That is how the subconscious rewires. You do not erase you, overwrite. Thoughts are not passive. They are active weapons. Select them like a general selects his army. Every weak thought you allow to march will cost you territory in the war of destiny. Say it aloud, I choose only thoughts that serve my rise. Understand the hierarchy of emotion, then overthrow it. You must accept a brutal truth. Emotions do not tell the truth. They tell a story. And that story is based not on reality, but on conditioning. That fear you feel when you are about to ask for what you're worth, that's not danger. That's a memory of childhood rejection. That laziness you feel when it's time to train, that's not your body speaking. That's a learned escape pattern. Your job is not to believe your emotions. Your job is to question them. Ask, is this emotion my master or my messenger? Emotions are valid indicators, but they are not rulers. They may knock on your door, but you decide whether they come in or pass by. The man who obeys emotion lives in chaos. The man who questions emotion builds order. Eliminate the echo chamber of the broke. If you surround yourself with people who reinforce your weakness, your laziness, your justification, you will remain where they are. Most broke men don't just live among broken habits. They defend them together. There is a fraternity of mediocrity in this world. It is well populated. It loves comfort, gossip, sarcasm, low standards, and high criticism of anyone who rises. Leave it. You must replace echo with elevation. Surround yourself only with men and women who demand better, who speak of mastery, who make excuses feel foreign, who normalize excellence. When you do, your standards will shift without effort, because the tribe reprograms the threshold. Remember this, your environment is more powerful than your willpower, so build one that forces your rise. And finally, live under oath, not opinion. Too many men build lives on moods, but the rare few, the elite, build their lives on covenants. They write down the man they must become, they study him, they recite his values, they install his behaviors until he is no longer a vision but a reality. Write it, every word, who you must become, what you will no longer tolerate, what your mornings look like, what your thoughts must be, what your daily scorecard of excellence contains. Do not just dream it, draft it, and let that document become your gospel. Read it, repeat it, adjust it, obey it. You do not need the world to tell you who you are. You must declare it. You must write the constitution of your mind and enforce it with the discipline of a man who does not hope for success but embodies it. Because now you understand. Wealth is not a number. Wealth is the outcome of inner sovereignty, and sovereignty is not granted. It is earned. You have now learned the principles of power. You've learned to crush the 10 habits that keep a man broke. You've installed the rituals of kingship, but mastery over the physical world is never complete until you've mastered the invisible field, the hidden architecture of thought that governs reality. Let me tell you something the world has forgotten. The material follows the immaterial, always. Your results are not caused by your actions alone. They are echoes of your dominant thoughts, repeated in rhythm, backed by belief, and fueled by feeling. This is the principle of mental causation, and it is the spine of all success. To ignore this is to build castles in sand. To understand it is to command destiny. Autosuggestion, the seed that grows the self. Autosuggestion is the act of planting conscious thought into the subconscious mind. And understand, the subconscious governs 95% of your behavior. It controls your confidence, your fears, your habits, your impulses, your gut instincts, and your capacity for wealth or poverty. You do not rise by motivation. You rise by rewiring your subconscious identity, and that rewiring happens through repetition, not just of words, but of emotionally charged declaration. You must speak to yourself like a sovereign addressing his army, with rhythm, with authority, with unshakable belief. Say aloud slowly, deliberately, each morning and each night. I am the master of my thoughts. I am detached from reaction. I am disciplined in all things. I am becoming wealth, peace, and precision. I do what I say. I think with clarity. I act with power. I do not flinch. I do not fold. I do not fail because I finish. Repeat this, not once, not occasionally, but until it becomes unconscious, until your subconscious accepts this identity as the only truth it knows. You are not reciting fluff. You are etching destiny. Your voice is the programming language of your nervous system. Speak with command, and your entire being will obey. Emotional detachment as metaphysical mastery. Let us now revisit detachment, not as a psychological trick, but as a spiritual power. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It is not avoidance. It is the divine discipline of non-reactivity. It is the capacity to observe without identifying, to be in the world but not owned by it. Most men suffer not because of what happens, but because of their uncontrolled inner interpretation of it. They fall not into reality but into reaction. You must become the observer, the witness, the still center of your own storm. Practice daily. When discomfort arises, say to yourself, "This is a sensation, not a sentence. It shall pass." Detach from the need to be liked, from the need to be right, from the need to always feel good. These are traps of the ego. They consume the energy that should be devoted to becoming. And when you release the attachment, something extraordinary happens. You rise above manipulation. You rise above petty conflict. You rise above emotional slavery. You become untouchable. The law of vibration, while your inner state attracts your outer fate. Science confirms what sages have known for centuries. Everything is frequency. Your thoughts, your words, your emotions all emit vibrational signals that the universe interprets, amplifies, and reflects. And here's the secret. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. If you think like a victim, you magnetize problems. If you speak in weakness, you amplify lack. If you feel desperate, you invite delay. But if you train your thoughts into clarity, your speech into power, your feelings into gratitude and focus, you raise your signal. You become a magnet for solutions, opportunities, wealth, allies, and calm dominion. Your vibration is not mystical. It is mathematical. Raise it with every action, with every word, with every breath. Say daily, I vibrate at the frequency of excellence. I am in harmony with wealth. I transmit power, peace, and purpose. I attract what aligns with the man I am becoming. This is not wishful thinking. This is quantum command. Thought transmutation, turning energy into wealth. Every thought has energy, every emotion is fuel. But what do most men do? They waste it. They leak it through complaint, lust, fear, gossip, and distraction. But the rare man, the elite builder, learns to transmute. He takes the fire of anger and converts it into discipline. He takes lust and converts it into creativity. He takes fear and converts it into courage. He does not suppress, he redirects. This is what Napoleon Hill called the transmutation of sexual energy, the redirection of the most primal forces into the highest achievements. Every time you want to scroll or complain or indulge, pause, breathe, say, "This is sacred energy. I will not waste it. I will build with it." And then write the page, lift the weight, record the video, make the investment, speak the truth. Turn every internal flame into forward motion. This is how the man who was once poor becomes wealthy, first in vibration, then in manifestation. Now you understand. You do not need more information. You need alignment. You do not need more goals. You need identity mastery. You do not need to be better. You need to remember who you were before the world made you small. So choose now. Choose power. Choose silence. Choose strategy. Choose sovereignty. Let these words become your spine. Let this mindset become your shield. Let this identity become your sword. And above all, let your daily actions become your prayer to the God within you. This is your final reminder. I do not serve my emotions. I do not serve my past. I do not serve approval. I do not serve fear. I serve clarity. I serve destiny. I serve the highest version of me, and I act accordingly. This is your rebirth. This is your initiation into the rare brotherhood of masters of the mind. And the world will never be the same. You are not here to be motivated. You are not here to be entertained. You are here to be reborn, because now you've heard the truth. The habits that kept you broke have been exposed. The rituals of the sovereign have been installed. The powers of mental transmutation, emotional detachment, and conscious vibration are now yours. But none of it matters unless you install it into the marrow of your being. So now, speak with me. Speak as if the man inside you, the man who has been hiding, suffocating beneath years of hesitation and distraction, is clawing his way to the surface. Say it. I am not waiting anymore. I am not hoping anymore. I am not begging, blaming, or bargaining anymore. I am not moved by my feelings. I am not delayed by their approval. I am not defined by my past. I am not afraid of my future. I am not average. I am not accessible to weakness. I am the ruler of my mind. I am the master of my routine. I am the initiator of power. I am the embodiment of discipline. This is not a mindset. This is not a phase. This is the new law of your life. From this moment forward, you wake with fire. You walk with focus. You think like a strategist. You speak like a commander. You rest with purpose, not guilt. You rise with reason, not reaction. You are no longer a man who tries. You are a man who trains. No longer a man who explains. You are a man who executes. No longer a man who survives. You are a man who rules. So from this day forward, everything changes. You breathe different. You dress different. You eat different. You think different. You move different. You act like someone who knows that his habits are carving the architecture of a dynasty. Your new mission is this: be detached, but not dispassionate. Be disciplined, but not rigid. Be decisive, but never reckless. Be powerful, but never distracted. And let this final principle be written on the door of your consciousness. Every day is judgment day for the man I'm becoming. And when the world sees you, when it hears you speak, watches you operate, feels your presence, let them whisper, "That man used to be broke, now he walks like he owns the air he breathes." Because he does. And that man is you.